Hello and welcome to the ZRL race recon for race 4. Today we're doing the Jarvis Seaside Sprint, so we'll discuss the route and what have you as we're going around, but we're due to set off on this recon ride in just over 4 minutes. So yeah, I've just done a bit of a warm-up and we are ready to go really. So we'll head out with TBR, who are hosting this ride today, and looks like there's only 17 of us. It's relatively early, I suppose. There's a large number of these recon rides over the coming days before the actual race on Tuesday, so I'd imagine the weekend ones will probably be more attended than this one, being one of I think the second one. I think there was one earlier today. So anyway, this is a new route, and clearly because it's a new route, it'll be the first time that I've ridden it. You'll get to see the whole course that you'll be doing, and of course if you're watching this later on after it's gone live, then you'll be able to fast forward through and see what the course is like. There's actually quite a lot going on in this race, because it's obviously a new route, and then it's also a points race. So we've got 3 lots of scoring in play effectively. We've got 2.5 and 3 kilos, fine. We've got FTS points, so fastest through segment. They're kind of the least well scoring points section. But then you've got FAL points, which is first across the line, so you need to be at the front of the peloton to score those, and they score really well. And then you've got fin points, which is finishing position points as well. So plenty going on. On top of that, you've obviously got the segments to think about, whereabouts you can score those points. And in the chat, as you can see on the screen, somebody's talking about 8,000 watts right from the start. So always full power, fantastic. So I mean, if it sets off at a pace, I might not be able to talk you through it as well as I was hoping for, but let's see what happens. Yeah, so not just the sprint sections and a com section that you can get additional points for FAL and FTS points, but there is also quite a number of power-ups in play, and well, we will go off what it says off the WTRL website in terms of the power-ups. In the race that I did on Tuesday, they bore no resemblance to what actually happened in the race, so fingers crossed they've managed to sort that out for Tuesday. But we'll assume, which as you know makes an ass out of you and me, that these points will be that these power-ups will be the right ones. So please get involved in the chat. You should be able to see it on screen. I'm going to give a shout out to my first member who joined this week, Frosty Robot. Thank you very much. Now a member of the channel, so you get a shout out, and there's your shout out, and it's very much appreciated. All helps in supporting the channel, and you know, it's not like any of us are Mr. Beast and getting rich out of it, but it's nice when you do make a little bit of money that you can reinvest back into the channel in terms of equipment that you can review, and you know, the running costs for subscriptions and all of these things. Right, so here we go. Let's see what this course is all about. So we've got quite a long lead in, as you can see on the map up at the top in the right hand corner. It's the blue section at the beginning of the map, so that's the lead in, and we basically head down here, and for the A's and B riders you will actually do this route 3 times. And my eyes aren't good and I'm trying to look at my notes, but it's 40 kilometres and you've got 321 metres of climbing. For the B's and C, for the C's and D's, so that's the A's and B's, for the C's and D's you will do the route twice. And that's basically 27 kilometres and 226 metres of climbing or thereabouts. And then within that, we'll go back to the A's and B's. You've got the segments to think about, and for the A's and B's you will do the JWB bridge forward sprint 4 times during the course of the race, because you hit that on the first lap during the lead-in section, and then you do it again at the end, because it's the start-finish banner at the end of that segment, and you'll see it coming up shortly after this second little climb, not this one but the one coming up after this. And then you do it on the, so you do it twice on the first lap basically, as I understand it, and then once on the second and third lap, so it's kind of one to watch out for. And then after that you've got the Jarvis reverse sprint. So if you look at the mini map in the top right hand corner, you can see the 3 circles with the white pointers around it just above the elevation. So the first one is the JWB, so you see we'll be approaching it, and then you've got the Jarvis sprint, and then almost immediately afterwards you go straight into the climb. So you've got 2 very close together, and both of them are segments that you can score points on. So it'd be really interesting to see how this pans out in the race, because you know, if you're at the front of the peloton and you can stay there, then you could score really highly, because you'll be getting FAL points, potentially FTS points. So we've got some additional help here from Christian from TBR, talking us through the course as well, so you're getting a double recon I think if he's going to continue to point these out, which is great. So yeah, a little bit of a bumpy bit here basically as we go through these crests and down again, and there's a few that are up to 10 and 11%, as you probably just saw there. Another little downhill, and then we go into this sort of, it's not really a climb, but you can imagine that we hit this at the end of the course as well, at the end of each lap. So you can imagine that if you are on your final lap, so lap 2 for the C's and D's and lap 3 for the A's and B's, that we're probably only a kilometre or so from the finishing line, maybe slightly further than that, but you can imagine that there would be a push over the top there, and then if you've still got the legs for it, I can imagine that would push over the top, keep going, and use this downhill to really get some momentum up into the Jarvis reverse sprint. So I reckon that final lap will be chaos. So here you would get an aero power up, and you want to hit it just before the corner that we've gone round, so we'll hit ours just for the sake of it. And this is your first sprint section, so you come round the corner and then you're straight into it, and that's also going to be your finish line on the final lap. So there we go, Christian agrees with me that the A's and B's will do that 4 times, C's and D's will do it 3. So we're going to do that sprint again. I mean, I didn't sprint it, but we will do that sprint again at the end of each lap. So then we've got, as you can see on the map, a fairly steady flat bit here, slight climb, slight bit of elevation, sort of 0 to 1%, and then we will have a very short downhill section, and then it's pretty flat until we get to the next sprint section, and then straight into the com. Again, as I said earlier, they're both segments and points are available. So it seems to me there's going to be two areas of chaos, and that will be the bit that we've just done, which is that little bump and then downhill and round the corner into the JWB Bridge Sprint, and then the sprint into the com. So it's one of those races that's going to be proper tough, pretty hard work, but you'll need to be on it all the time because there's plenty of opportunities for breakaways. I mean, you've got the sprints, of course, whereabouts you'll have people thinking about both FAL and FTS points, and as Christian says, this is the bit in the race whereabouts you probably want to try and get some recovery in if you can and stay in the wheels. But yeah, and then you've got the climb whereabouts you can imagine that will split the pack, if not on the first lap, then certainly on the second and on the third for the A's and B's. So we're heading out now, as you can see, along the tarmac, out towards well, the volcano really, and I don't really want to be leaving, but yeah, this climb up into the volcano, as Christian says, and I agree, will no doubt split the group. So some solid advice coming from Christian here, I think. Just a quick credit, I watched Nathan Crake's Recon video earlier. If you're not subscribed to Nathan, I would strongly recommend that you do. His ZRL Recons are really very good, and part of that is some Recon notes, and I've got these on my laptop over here that you can't see, just to check that I'm giving you the right information, or at least I should say the right information that we have now from WTRL, which may or may not be the right information in the race, as we know. So draft power up in this section. So you get the aero, as you saw for the first sprint, and then you've got a draft aero, which you get just on the flat bit after the sprint, which you can carry, and then the next one will be a feather at the Jarvis Sprint arch. So that's obviously going to come into play as you go up the com, and then at the top of the com, pretty much the pointy bit, I think, there's another power up, which is a burrito, which, for those that you don't know, the burrito basically kills the draft behind you, so you have to be very careful about using it in a team race, because it stops people drafting you, but obviously if you've got teammates behind you as well, then it'll affect them, and it is quite noticeable. In the last ZRL there was a burrito, and it didn't half make an effect when everybody powered them on and I was just behind them. So there's definitely a strategy to using those. And then as you get to the bottom of the com, there's another arch whereabouts you'll get another aero, and then a little bit further on at the next arch you'll get a you'll get a ghost. So the ghost, as you'll know, makes you invisible for, I forget now, is it 15 seconds? Somebody will correct me in the chat. And we're just starting the com. It's quite difficult to use, really. You have to really be on it and power and try and give yourself some distance from the pack that you feel like you can maintain. So my suggestion, and I've seen a couple of other Recon videos that basically think the same, is I would probably not use my aero, forget about the ghost, and then have the aero for the final sprint, after which you'll then get a draft again. So I just need to not lose the group, so let's just put a little bit of effort in. So yeah, there's quite a lot of this is about momentum, really. You kind of don't want to do what I just did, which was suddenly realise you're on the comm and you need to start pedaling. You really want to carry some momentum into that first bit, and then you can see it levels out a bit here, so you need to get up the gears and make sure that you stay in the wheels, and hopefully you haven't already lost the peloton on that first bit, and then it's back on the gas again for the final little push up and over the top, and you'll see the arch which will signal the end of the comm, and the end of this is your third segment of the day. So as I said before, there's first across the line points and fastest through segment points here, so team tactics might come into play. You might need to everybody's got a feather but me. I should draft. I probably forgot to use it. Yeah, if you've got people who are really good sprinters and people who are really good climbers, team captains might have a bit of sort of thinking to do about how best to maximise those points. But really, it'll be about working as a team, I think, to try and keep everybody together so that you've got a chance of competing for those FAL points. So there we go, that's the end of the comm on lap 1. We're doing 2 laps of this on the Recon. So this would be equivalent of the C and D race. A's and B's will get another lap to enjoy. But you definitely want to be pushing over that, and you can see we've got the burrito as we've come over the arch. So if we fire that, you can see at the top it says undraftable, so anybody behind me who was drafting me doesn't for the period of the burrito. So you can imagine that if you are even slightly off the pace and you suddenly get burritoed to death after having just done that 3-minute effort up the comm, you could easily fall behind. So yeah, definitely a case of trying to keep on it. So got ever such a slight little bump, and then we're downhill on the other side of the comm, and we will pick up that aero kind of halfway. Let me just have a look. Yeah, we'll pick up the aero at the bottom of this as we go through another arch. So I mean, this is where I'd come into my own on this downhill. As Christian's just pointed out, the heaviest guys will do well. So I mean, I've lost the pack on the way up, but I might make back half a second on the way down. So let me just do a bit of that. So down we go on the other side. Chance for recovery. Could be a good place to use your burrito, like that rider's just done. You know, when everybody else has already burnt theirs, especially if you're at the towards the front of the peloton. I did see actually in the race on Tuesday, I think if you watch the live stream, there was a couple of Sisu riders, I think they were in all pink, it may have been a different team, but there was two of them at the front, and the one in second place fired his burrito, and basically the idea being that he was protecting his front man and giving himself the opportunity. So as we go through this arch here, this bridge, under this bridge, then we should pick up our next power up, and there we go, we've now got the aero. So yeah, this is a choice, I think, because obviously you can't have two power ups at the same time. You've got to have used it before you get the next one, even if it is still in use. As long as you've triggered it before the next one's awarded, you'll be fine. But the next one is a ghost, and I think this aero that we've got at the moment will be far more useful for the sprint at the end of the lap. So let me just go back to the WTRL website. Yeah, so yeah, it would be a ghost after this. So I would definitely think about hanging on to my aero for the final sprint on the lap. So I think there's been some issues which, if you've been racing the other three before this fourth one, you'll be aware of. There was the team time trial cock up really, where some riders actually didn't even get to race, so they've rescheduled that for the 14th of October, should you want to either do it if you didn't manage to do it, or do it again if you think you can go faster. So there was that. And then in races 2 and 3, it really didn't seem like the power-ups were as advertised. So yeah, this is another little spot whereabouts you can imagine on that last lap, well, on any lap, that there could be a bit of a push and could separate the pack, because there's another little climb just after this, or I mean not so much a climb but a bit of a bump just after this, so you could push on through those two. If there was a few of you perhaps in your team, you could do it together and help each other out. Yeah, so there's been power up problems, but hopefully that's all fixed for this race on Tuesday, and we'll be able to see the race as it should be. But what I do think that they've got right is the routes, because they've been you know, really good and challenging. I mean, everybody's sped up, let me catch up. So this is whereabouts you would get the burrito, I think, if you hadn't used your aero, which I've not. But you can see a few people have just popped their aero there, and then they'll get a ghost, so we might see people disappearing shortly. But I do think the routes have been pretty good. I mean, last Tuesday, well, this week's route on Tuesday was, it's harder races I've done. It was really full on, mental start, as they always are, and I equalled my best power output for the first 3 minutes up the climb at something like, I think it was 411 watts or something. We don't look at watts per kilo at the moment because I've put weight on, but and then there was the com in the middle of the course which I didn't quite stay with, but anyway, I almost did. I looked back at it and I thought, I was so close to staying with it. So I was quite pleased with that in a way, because my fitness is coming back. But that said, and I shouldn't really complain, but I'm going on holiday tomorrow for a week. So I feel like I'll be starting again, because there won't be any cycling. There'll be some swimming, and there'll be some walking, and there'll probably be some nice food. So I'm trying not to think about the weight gain or the fitness loss, but it'll be another reset. And then in October, work gets very busy, so I'm actually away in October. So for me, I think the fitness reset will come at the beginning of November, and really getting into it to try and, obviously I'll cycle in between all of my travel, but it'll be about really buckling down and getting rid of the extra pounds and building that fitness up. So as we come up to the end of this first lap, you can see that it's through the S's and we've got quite a few ups and downs. So you can imagine, we're kind of 1.8 kilometres from the finish. There's another sprint segment at the end of the lap for more points. So you want to be, happy birthday Christian, you kind of want to be at the front of the peloton if you possibly can be, because you'll get some finish points which count down from the number of riders. So 50 riders in the race, the person who wins gets 50 points, second 49, all the way down to 1 for finishing in 50th. So you get those points. You also, in that last few hundred metres, will get FAL and FTS segment points opportunities as well. So if there's any way you can get your sprinters at the front of the peloton on the final lap, which will be a challenge because you'll have done the com twice by then, or 3 times if you're an AB rider, but that's what you would definitely be looking for, somebody with some power over that last 500 metres. So again, this is going to be, I can see people going long here, because if you can sustain 2 minutes over that last kilometre, maybe 3, 2.5 to 3 minutes, if you've got that in your tank, as many of the people who compete in this have, then you'll push like crazy up this hill and down the other side and really get some momentum. So sort of 700 metres out, for me, I think that's whereabouts the race will be won or lost. So as we head down towards the start finish line, which is the JWB Bridge Sprint banner, we come round this left hand here, 250 metres to go, and this is where you want your aero. And maybe I went a bit late, but this will take you through to the finishing line and take you through that sprint. So just as you're coming off that bridge and round the corner, you want to fire your aero, and you see as we've gone under it, we've now picked up the draft power up as we start the second lap. So that's your 2 JWB bridge forward sprints on the first lap, along with your Jarvis sprint reverse and your Jarvis com or reverse climb, I think they call it, on the first lap. And then we basically get the Jarvis sprint segment just before the climb, the com segment on the Jarvis climb, and then what we've just been through. So 4 segments on the first lap, 3 on the subsequent ones. So it's a challenging course, and like I say, there's not just getting round that you have to think about. It's, you know, the strategic side of it is going to play quite an important part on how many points you get for your team. I should have a drink. So we're just easing off to let the peloton catch back up a bit. So for those of you who are watching, and it looks like there's a few of you watching at the moment. Hi Andy. Nutrition tips. So, I mean, I am no nutritionist, so I'm not an expert, but I can tell you what I do. Is I tend to have a lunch at about 2 o'clock, and usually I'll have some carbs and a bit of protein, but nothing too heavy. So I will have had some breakfast earlier in the day, and then I use Precision Fuel, which is the, in fact I'll put it in the comments later so you can have a look, but I put that into my water bottle for during the race, and that's a carb and mineral supplement. It's powder, you just put it in, give it a shake, and it tastes nice, and it's one of those things to sip as you're going round. And then afterwards, I mean, in theory you should, you know, sort of pasta, maybe pizza, I don't know, but you know, get those carbs back in. But for me, it's whatever my wife's decided to make me for tea. So, yeah, I find that if I eat, and I think it's individual really to a degree, if I eat too close to the race, I just feel awful. And when I say too close, for me, that's within a couple of hours. It really needs to have gone down. But I did make the mistake early on Zwift when I was trying to use it to lose some weight. So I mean, I was doing some racing, but it wasn't about the racing, and I wasn't eating all that much. So, you know, the usual sort of, I need to lose some weight, I'm going to do some exercise, and I'm not going to eat anything, which at 55 years old, I mean, you really should know better. But anyway, that's what I did, and fair enough, the weight came off. But then I noticed I literally had no go during the races. So I went back to, if I was racing at 5 o'clock, I'd have a lunch about midday, 1 o'clock. So for this, being 7 o'clock-ish for me, although I'm not racing it this week, unfortunately, because I'll be on holiday, but if I was, I'd eat something around 2, 3 o'clock. You know, some bread, some soup, maybe a bit of chicken, just, you know, energy basically. But then the big difference I found is the Precision Fuel that I put into the drink. So it's about 60 grams of carbs. So that's about an hour's worth, which kind of fits quite nicely in with these races. And it's got electrolytes and kind of goes some way towards rehydrating you during the race. So that's what I do. It looks quite expensive actually, but it lasts quite a long time, so it's not as bad as you think. So yeah, when I've finished, I'll put a link in the description so that you can click on it. I hope that's useful. Like I say, I mean, there will be people who've raced a lot more than me, have a lot more experience, might have a different approach, but that's what I do, and it serves me quite well. So, sprint section, which I think while we were talking we went through, and as a result of that I've missed my power up. Really racing this well, aren't I? Well, fortunately I'm not racing it, but we're now straight into the com for the second time, so my pleasure, Andy. I'm glad it was useful. Yeah, check the video out later and I'll put a link in. I mean, the key to it is not to starve yourself, I think. Hey, Frosty Robot, member, you got a shout out earlier, I don't know if you heard it. Question as well. Oh, you got tennis ball attachments, yeah? Yes. So do I think the front attachment's necessary? Yes, I do. So it does a couple of things. It levels the bike up, which isn't necessarily a problem on the Zwift Ride, as you'll know. You can adjust it so you're still where you want to be. I don't blame you. Celtic's more interesting than me. I find that very hard to believe. But yes, but thank you very much for joining as a member of the channel and supporting it. It's very much appreciated. Same as you really, I had the 4. You can see I've got a rocker plate now, which there's a video coming on that shortly. But I am still a very big advocate of the tennis balls. So there won't be any negativity towards them in the video for sure. And certainly for the cost difference, they're a great solution. But I had the 4 on the kicker core at the back to start with, and then I felt like, I don't know if you found this, but you get the movement at the back, and I felt like it was on a sprint when I was putting the power down, it was tipping a bit. So I bought the front attachment, what was it, £30, something like that, you'll be able to tell me. And it just felt more stable and felt like the movement was more natural. So there's a few people that will tell you that the tennis balls, I don't think anybody disputes that they really help with comfort, and if you want to do more miles on the bike, comfort's key, and lack of soreness, and no rashes and all of those things that you can get if you're doing hours in the saddle. So they absolutely help with that. Some people will say that you can lose some power through them. Honestly, I didn't notice that. So maybe I'm not powerful enough to notice it. But yeah, I don't think you'll regret getting them. They'll be good. I'll tell you one thing about doing these lives whereabouts you're talking. I hardly noticed that come. It's quite nice to be going up and not thinking about how much it's hurting. So yeah, so in the race this would be lap 2, so you'd be only 7.5 kilometres now from the end, and you've done the really tough part, and you've got another little bump as we go over here, and you can see that we've got the burrito to try and kill everybody off on the downhill should we want to. And then As we saw on the first lap, for those of you that joined the ride at the beginning, there's a couple of little climbs, you can see them on the mini-map, about 2/3 of the way along the route, where there could be potential breakaways on that final lap, be it lap 3 for the A's and B's or lap 2 for the C's and D's. We'll keep up with Christian. Okay, I'll come with you. So we're going to have a bit of a run. That sounds nice. I should have burritoed him, shouldn't I, for a laugh. So in the race, this is whereabouts you'd definitely get some recovery. That was quite good. Stretch the legs, and we're let me take a run on the front and help out. And back in with the peloton. So I don't imagine for a second that you'd be able to make up that kind of gap in the race. So, as I was saying before, on this bit here, there's a couple of little climbs, and with less than 5 kilometres to go on your final lap, I could easily imagine that it would be a push. And then through the volcano and out the other side, and then you've got that final 3 kilometres or so over the S's as you come round into that final sprint before the finish. So for me, I think this bit could easily make or break your race here. You know, get your gear on, switch off for a second. You can see, even though we're on a Recon ride, people are having a bit of a play. So there's another little bump as we come out of here, and it kind of settles, and then it's that big push to the end. I'll have to turn my fan up. Apologies if it affects the sound. So it's a bit deceptive, the map, I find. Kind of looks a lot further than 3 kilometres on there. But that'll soon disappear, because this is a fairly fast section, 40 plus kilometres. Oh, there we go, Ghost got used. Let's catch up with that first group. Yeah, I completely agree with what Christian's just put. It'll get, well, I think it'll get spicy, not spicy, but but this is whereabouts you'd absolutely want to stay in the wheels and try and recover from those pushes that inevitably will have come on that last little section that we've just done, and then a couple of lumps and bumps before we have that little downhill into the corner and a final sprint. Start questioning your life choices. Probably true in the race, but I've never done exercise and regretted it afterwards unless I got injured. Every other time, no matter how much it hurts, I always feel better for it. Hey up, he's off again. Well, this is the least relaxing Recon ride I've done, but probably the most fun. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is something like race pace. Let's kill everybody else off. I'm trying to do that and they're a bit behind me so it doesn't affect them. Use your gears. Now you've got that little climb coming up in a minute. You can see it now on the heads up, and you really want to push on that. And then you definitely want to keep pushing here as you go over the top. And hopefully you've used your power up at the right time and you've still got your aero or your ghost, because I suppose the idea of that is to do it here, but get your momentum up the opposite of what I'm doing. And power, aero now, final sprint, and you have run the race for your team. I'm positive that's how it'll turn out for you. So, thank you as always for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it proves to be useful. I'd take 4th place on the day. and I wish you all the very best of luck for the race. And like I say, check out Nathan Crake's video. He's got a download in the description. Thanks Lasher, thanks Rusty. He's got a download in the description that will give you all the segments and the power-ups so you can have it with you, and it will remind you where you are in the race. That's it for me. Thank you all for watching, and ride on.